Hi everyone. In this episode, we are honoured to have Peter Reading, Senior Legal Counsel at the Equal Opportunities Commission for Hong Kong. Peter plays an instrumental role in advocating the issues of equality, LGBT rights, relationship rights for same-sex couples, and gender recognition laws for transgender people in Hong Kong. Hi Peter.
Good to see you, Ricky.
It's been for a while. I know obviously you have been practicing in human rights law for the last 20 years in Asia, UK and EU. Your work's absolutely critical for the LGBT community. So I just wanted to find out, how does Hong Kong compare to other Asian countries?
The way you measure these rights is probably three factors. One is whether countries have anti-discrimination laws. Mm-hmm. Secondly, whether you have relationship rights for same-sex couples, which you mentioned, and also whether you have gender recognition laws for transgender people. And in all of those areas, unfortunately, Hong Kong doesn't have those laws.
Right.
But you compare that to Asia and things are progressing in some other places. So for example, Taiwan now has same-sex marriage. Mm-hmm. It also has anti-discrimination laws. And also Thailand has anti-discrimination laws. So things are starting to progress and Hong Kong is actually starting to fall behind other Asian jurisdictions.
I heard even Japan has progressed. So how can Hong Kong catch up?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's two things. There's what we can do and there's what the government can do. Just to give you an idea, because we're the statutory equality body, we've been doing a lot of work on the issues. We've done research and made recommendations on anti-discrimination laws. We're going to start a consultation on those issues shortly with the public. We've done research on relationship rights with Allen & Overy, the law firm.
Yes.
And we've also done recommendations to the government on introducing gender recognition laws. Yeah, we're pretty proud of the work we're doing. But the factor is that it ultimately depends on the government.
Right.
Without the leadership of them driving it forward by introducing the laws, mm-hmm.
We
won't make real progress. So they are key, and it's up to them now to respond to our recommendations, which we've made over the last 5 years.
Okay, that sounds fantastic. Look, I'm a strong believer of driving LGBT equality, and our clients are talking about this all the time. So how can businesses advance LGBT equality in Hong Kong?
Well, actually, I would say that's a really bright light in Hong Kong. They've done a huge amount in the last 5 or 10 years. And I think that's both with their internal policies and practices, as well as their external advocacy work. Just as an example, we've done a lot of work with all sorts of corporates to improve their policies and practices internally, their anti-discrimination policies for people with who are transgender, as well as rights for same-sex couples in terms of benefits and so on. A lot of them also have been involved in the community business LGBTI index to measure themselves as to how they're performing, which has been a really positive development in Hong Kong. And then externally, it's been fantastic to see many of them advocating for anti-discrimination laws. Many of them signed up to a statement that we did a few years ago. And also in terms of relationship rights, a number of them applied to intervene in a key case called QT, which was about relationship rights for same-sex couples where you move with your partner to Hong Kong and your partner normally would get a dependent visa. But at that time, the Hong Kong would only recognize if you were in a heterosexual marriage. Yes. And that case decided that it was discrimination to deny that to same-sex couples that were in a marriage or civil partnership. And what was crucial is that these 30 or so business sector organizations applied to make submissions about the business case for these rights to be recognized. So it was actually really significant. And the court actually referred to their submissions in the judgment. Really positive work.
Significant landmark case, I assume, right?
Yeah, huge for Hong Kong and actually Asia.
Well, look, I've known you for over 30 years now, since we studied law at University of Western Australia, from Perth to London, now to Hong Kong.
Yeah, we started when we were 12.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now, I've got a huge respect for your work on discrimination, but how do you prioritise, given that there's so many areas?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the most important thing is there are many issues of equality in Hong Kong as in other parts of the world. The way we work is by evidence and where they're aware of their issues of discrimination or gaps in the law. And therefore where there needs to be changes. LGBT is one area because there are no anti-discrimination laws, but a couple of other examples are In relation to breastfeeding, there was no protections for discrimination for women in that regard until recent amendments, which we advocated for. Interns and volunteers in the workplace, which many of the listeners might be interested in, previously they weren't covered in terms of, for example, sexual harassment.
Right.
We made recommendations to the government that they be protected, and the government did agree to those, which were also recently passed. So there are a couple of really good examples of other areas where the laws were not sufficient, not providing protection, and legislative changes were made. So yeah, that's the way we work. It's by evidence. Hopefully we can continue to do that in Hong Kong and make a difference.
Well, thank you very much, Peter, for sharing your insights into obviously what you've done for the community in Hong Kong, and also your strong advocacy for discrimination rights in Hong Kong as well. So looking forward to further success in this field, and obviously keep in contact.
Thanks very much, Ricky.